this is a personal question. I seem to have, I recognize a pattern in my life. I will make a decision to do something, and almost immediately something will happen later that would have, like financially, let's say, I wouldn't have made that decision had I known this was going to happen.
Right.
And this happens so often. I mean, I'll decide, well, right now I'm going to go to Israel. And then all of a sudden, all that breaks, $708 or something. Well, I don't know if I should have made that decision because all that money would have gone. And I do this a lot.
Well, join the club. Join the human race. You see, we do not know what's going to happen. We can influence that. We can adjust ourselves to tune in to certain kinds of experiences. We can do our best to energize them or draw them to us or us to them. But it's an infinite universe. There's all kinds of intentions and patterns going on all the time. And sometimes when we make a decision is not what creates an event. Okay? So if you look back and say, oh, well, I don't like this experience, therefore I should not have made that decision, those are not directly related. The initial decision to do something creates a potential experience in the future. We are creating the future. This is a way of looking at things which it might sound strange, but it's the idea that effects create causes. We have an idea. This idea is born in some potential future, or we're tuning into some potential future. Take it either way. The energy of that idea that exists in the future begins drawing all the experiences toward it that would result in its manifestation. Okay? So it's like almost as if we usually have a pebble in a pond. We see the ripples coming out. Well, imagine, if you can, it going back the other way. You drop a pebble, which is dropping this idea in the future, and then all the ripples move toward it. So you have this focus, and then things begin to happen. People start to make connections. Events occur leading toward that. Now, what happens when it doesn't lead toward that? Okay? That's because that happens when other pebbles are dropped into the future, creating other ripples that sometimes interfere with that process and create all kinds of different events. So, as a personal single example, trying to make this simple, let's suppose that somebody decides to take a trip, and they're going to take a trip to Tahiti. All right, and so that starts to create ripples out that will attract all the events required for that. But let's suppose that they also have doubts about flying, doubts about the political situation, doubts about the money, doubts about things like that. Okay? Those also go out and produce their own effects, right? And can interfere with the process. But they only interfere completely when the person, as a result of that ripple back, makes a different decision not to go, for instance, because of such and such. Well, there was nothing wrong with the decision to go, but now they're making another decision based on a different idea that can stop that from happening. It wasn't the original decision that did that. It's later decisions and the effects of those. Briefly, one time we made a decision to take a tour of people, a group of people, to Hawaii, Gloria and I. And so things started happening, people were signing up, the plans were starting to be made, but what we did not make decisions about was extra money for us to go. Okay, here we are, the group leaders, didn't have the means. But here, this is an interesting thing. We never gave up on the idea of going. We never made a decision that, oh, we're not going to be able to do this. We're going to go. It's up to the universe to find a way. Well, actually, it's also up to us to give the universe pathways for that to happen, but we didn't do that. Make the story short, what happened was a series of events that resulted in the van that I had at the time being totaled twice. Sounds strange, but it happened. Totaled the first time, I bought it back, got it running, and it was totaled the second time. And the insurance for both totaling was just enough to take us to Hawaii. Okay? So, but there were all kinds of things on the way where we could have made other decisions and said, oh, well, we shouldn't have made that decision because now all these people are ready to go and we can't. And that would have been a mess. But we just never made that kind of a decision. We said, we're going. I don't know how. We don't have time to think about it. We're going. Well, I was without a car for a year, but we had a great trip. Okay. But the point here is, timing may change, events and circumstances may change, but if you can hold on to a focus and sustain it without deviation somehow or another, the opportunity to make it happen will occur. You might not like the way, and you have the option anytime you want to make other decisions, but somehow that will become a possibility.
Well, I've almost reached the point now where I think, well, the universe is very kind to me, because if the one thing, the disaster, or whatever you call it, came first, I wouldn't make the decision to do these things. So if I make the decision and the disaster comes after, I'm already committed.
That's one way of looking at it, of course. And I think the universe is very kind, but you see what the universe does. Universe or higher self or spirit, whatever we want to call this, its basic impulse is toward harmony. But that doesn't mean making everything nice. What it does is harmonize your thoughts with your experience. So if you find yourself getting experiences consistently or even too often that you don't like, this knowledge says one of the most powerful things you can do is go inside and examine what you think about yourself, about life, about those experiences, and see if there are any ideas that you can change. And when you change those, you start having different experiences. That is not an easy process, because once we start doing that, our life has to change. And if we're comfortable and we've adjusted to the problems and we can deal with them and we feel skillful and confident that, yeah, these bad things happen, but I know what to do about them when they do, it can be a little scary diving off into the unknown, where you change some fundamental ideas about yourself and about life, then you don't know what's going to happen. We have the basic trust that it's going to be good for you, but then you know how children are about something that's good for you. Okay? That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to like it. Okay? But it's a way to grow and get beyond wherever you're at if you want to do that.